So one of the things that I am a big advocate of is organizing our Google Classroom. So to kind of prep myself for this new semester and to kind of organize myself for this new semester, I want to archive some of the classes that I'm not using anymore and to move around classes that I may not need like all the time. So to archive a class, you're going to go, I'm in my Google Classroom, like the home page here. If you don't see this page, you'll just go to classes and I'm going to click the class that I want to archive. So I'll go to these three little dots on the right-hand side and click archive. Now, keep in mind that if this class is a class that other teachers are a part of, like for example, like the class of 2021, I don't want to archive this. I would just remove myself from that class because if I archive it and it's actually an active class, then I will archive the whole class. So it will go inactive for everybody who is a part of it. So if you are a part of a class, like a co-teacher of a class or an advisor or something that you're no longer a part of, you can just remove yourself from that. So I can go to these three dots here, or I can go to these three dots here and leave the classes right here. So same thing, but you just leave the class instead. So archive will kind of put it in the frozen section for everybody that's a part of that class, and leave the class means that it will still be active. It's just you're leaving that class. You'll no longer have the teacher or the student rights to that class, and you would have to ask to rejoin that class. The other thing you can do is you can reorganize these. So period 2 is now down here, and I want period 2. That is my class right now, so I want it to the top. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm actually going to just drag it to the very top here because that is my most used class. My period 1 and 3, normally you probably would archive these. Because I'm teaching Avid, I want to keep these the same. But again, I want to kind of order them so that, these are just for quick announcements that I will make for my Avid students. So I don't need it to have it in my top 3 or top 4 list. It can just be kind of put down where I can kind of ignore it a little easier. So that's one way that you can do this in Google Classroom, is to reorganize your classes to make them fit your needs. As we're talking about Google Classroom organization, make sure you also can look at your classes. And so one thing that I'm a highly advocate is to clean up your stream. So in my stream, you only see announcements. These are announcements that, quick announcements like in August, I said, hey, even though we don't meet, I'm your Avid teacher. And then right before class started on Sunday, I put post announcement of just like expectations. And notice you don't see my classwork. All of my classwork is living under where it says classwork. I'm choosing what worked well for me last semester, and so I'm choosing it again this semester, is to organize by weeks. So I have my weeks that are organized here, and I'm using emojis to differentiate between days. So I have my material here that are my days slides, and then I have my actual assignment that's here that's color-coded by these emojis here. Tomorrow, I believe it's red that I use for Tuesdays. So just kind of visually make it seem more appealing. So as you're thinking of, in setting up your classes and getting into the groove of it again, make sure you're thinking about how you're organizing things. Going back to our stream, I said that I keep my stream only for notification or like announcements here. And so one way that I do that is you go to this little cogwheel here and scroll down to where it says stream and classwork on the stream. I chose to hide notifications. This helps clean it up, and it also forces my students to go to classwork where I want them to see that organization that I'm doing and I'm working really hard at. So I hide notifications. You can show condensed notifications or show all attachments and details. I find that for my students, it tends to be a little bit too confusing. It's a little too confusing for me. So I highly recommend that you hide notifications on your stream. So those two things that I'm doing for Google Classroom to get me prepped, and kind of what I'm doing to prep. And this week, as I'm getting into the groove of classes again, this is one way that I'm organizing and setting up my classes.